Hi friends, welcome to my channel. Today, I'm going to explain and review a new Chinese release drama story, Gladiator Fire and Blood. This is an intense story filled with betrayal, revenge, hidden power, deadly gladiator battles, and an unforgettable journey of a legendary warrior who loses everything before rising again. At the center of the story is a powerful warrior known as the Roman god of war, a man whose name once inspired fear in his enemies and loyalty among his people. But when the emperor and a mysterious wizard join forces against him, his entire world is turned upside down. Framed for crimes he never committed, separated from everything he loves, and pushed to the edge of death, the legendary warrior is forced to disappear from the world he once protected. But this is not the end of his story. After surviving a terrible fall and awakening as a helpless slave, he is thrown into a brutal gladiator arena where death waits at every corner. What no one knows is that the power sleeping inside him has not disappeared. When his life reaches its darkest moment, the true god of war awakens once again. From that moment, his journey becomes a battle for survival, truth, justice, and revenge. So without wasting any time, let's begin the complete story of Gladiator Fire and Blood, and see how a fallen warrior rises from slavery to reclaim his divine power, destroy the people who betrayed him, overthrow a ruthless tyrant, and finally regain the glory that was stolen from him. At the beginning of the story, we are introduced to a powerful Roman warrior whose reputation has spread throughout the empire. He is not an ordinary soldier. He is known as the god of war because of his extraordinary strength, courage, and ability to turn even the most hopeless battle in his favor. Wherever he goes, his enemies fear him, while the people who fight beside him believe that victory is almost guaranteed as long as he stands with them. Despite his terrifying reputation on the battlefield, he is not a cruel man. Away from war, he deeply cares about his family and the people under his protection. His greatest desire is not to rule the empire or collect wealth. He simply wants to protect his loved ones and live in peace after years of fighting. Unfortunately, his strength and popularity have made him a dangerous figure in the eyes of the emperor. The emperor sits on the throne, but he knows that the god of war possesses something that cannot be controlled by royal commands. The people respect the warrior because he has repeatedly protected the empire, and that admiration makes the emperor increasingly suspicious. Instead of seeing him as a loyal protector, the emperor begins to see him as a possible threat to his authority. But the emperor knows that he cannot openly attack such a powerful warrior without turning the people against himself. So he chooses a more dangerous path. He decides to destroy the warrior through deception. To carry out his plan, the emperor turns to a mysterious wizard who possesses knowledge and powers far beyond ordinary men. The wizard understands that defeating the god of war in a direct confrontation would be nearly impossible, so he suggests something much more effective. They will not fight the warrior's strength. They will destroy his reputation instead. Together, they begin preparing a false accusation that will make the legendary warrior appear to be a traitor to the empire. The plan is carefully designed. Evidence is manipulated, witnesses are influenced, and information is twisted until the truth becomes almost impossible to recognize. The emperor makes sure that the accusation appears believable enough that even those who once trusted the warrior begin to doubt him. Suddenly, the same man who had spent years defending the empire is portrayed as a dangerous enemy from within. The warrior is shocked when he realizes what is happening. He knows he has done nothing wrong, but the people around him have already begun turning against him. He tries to defend himself, but every explanation seems to make the situation worse. The emperor's influence reaches everywhere, while the wizard secretly ensures that the false story continues to spread. The warrior begins to understand that this is not a simple misunderstanding. Someone is deliberately destroying his life from the shadows. And then the situation becomes even more devastating. The conspiracy does not stop with his reputation. His enemies target the people closest to him, knowing that his family is the one thing capable of breaking the strongest warrior. Suddenly, the god of war is no longer fighting on a battlefield where he can see his enemy. He is fighting an invisible war where every move has already been planned against him. As the pressure increases, his family is placed in danger, and the warrior realizes that protecting them has become more important than protecting his own life. He tries desperately to reach them, but the emperor's forces close in around him. The man who once commanded armies now finds himself isolated, hunted, and betrayed by people he once believed he could trust. Eventually, he is driven toward a dangerous cliff while trying to escape his pursuers. The storm around him is not only physical but emotional. Everything he built is collapsing at the same time. His family is gone from his reach, His reputation has been destroyed, and the empire he once defended now considers him an enemy. Standing at the edge of the cliff, he has nowhere left to run. His enemies believe they have finally won. They believe that the legendary god of war has been cornered and that his story is about to end. But they are wrong. The warrior falls from the cliff and disappears into the darkness below. Everyone assumes that no ordinary man could survive such a fall. The emperor believes the threat has been eliminated, and the wizard believes his plan has succeeded perfectly. But far below, where the warrior's body is eventually discovered, something unexpected happens. He survives. However, when he finally awakens, his old life is gone. He does not wake inside a palace, surrounded by loyal soldiers. He does not wake as the celebrated god of war. Instead, he opens his eyes in a completely unfamiliar place, weak, confused, and stripped of everything that once defined him. Before he can understand what happened, he discovers the cruel truth about his new existence. He has become a slave. The legendary warrior who once stood above armies is now treated as a powerless man with no freedom and no name of importance. His former glory means nothing here. Nobody knows who he truly is, and the people controlling him have no idea that the broken slave standing before them is the very warrior they once feared. But deep inside him, something remains alive. His divine power has not vanished. It is merely waiting. And soon, fate will place him inside a gladiator arena where thousands will watch him fight for his life. That battle will become the moment when the world begins to discover that the god of war was never truly defeated. After awakening as a slave, the former god of war spends his first days struggling to understand the cruel reality of his new life. His body has survived the fall, but the warrior who once commanded respect now has almost nothing left. He is given no freedom, no weapons, and no reason to believe that anyone would care about his past. To the people around him, he is simply another captured man who can be ordered around and punished whenever he refuses to obey. Yet even though his body is weakened, his mind still remembers fragments of the warrior he used to be. He remembers the battlefield, the people who depended on him, and most painfully, the family he lost because of the emperor's conspiracy. Those memories become both his greatest source of pain and the reason he refuses to completely surrender. The slave masters quickly notice that there is something unusual about him. Unlike the other slaves, he does not behave like a broken man. Even when he is exhausted, there is a quiet strength in his eyes. He rarely complains, and he does not beg for mercy. When other slaves are frightened by the guards, he simply watches them carefully, studying their movements and waiting for an opportunity to survive. He may have lost his title, but years of battle have taught him something that cannot easily be taken away. He knows how to read danger. One day, the slave owner discovers that the gladiator arena needs another fighter. The arena has become one of the empire's most popular forms of entertainment. Powerful men gather to watch slaves and prisoners fight against trained warriors, beasts, and sometimes creatures that seem almost impossible for an ordinary human to defeat. The audience does not care about the fighters' pasts. They only care about blood, survival, and victory. The slave owner looks at the fallen warrior and decides that he might be useful in the arena. The man appears physically strong despite his injuries, and the owner believes that putting him into a gladiator match could earn a large amount of money. The warrior is given no choice. He is dragged toward the training grounds and told that if he wants to live, he must fight. At first, the other gladiators underestimate him. They see a newcomer with no proper training equipment and assume he will not survive his first match. Some of them have spent years inside the arena. They understand how to use every weapon and know exactly how the crowd reacts to fear. But the fallen warrior does not need anyone to teach him how to fight. His body remembers things that his mind has temporarily forgotten. When he picks up a weapon for the first time, something strange happens. His grip becomes steady. His eyes change. For a brief moment, it feels as though the warrior he once was is standing behind the broken slave. He begins moving with an instinct that surprises everyone watching him. Even without understanding why, he knows how to position himself, how to avoid an attack, and how to strike at the right moment. The guards notice his potential and decide to place him in a much more dangerous match than originally planned. They want a spectacle, and the arena master believes the mysterious new slave could provide exactly that. When the day of the match arrives, the arena is packed with spectators. Powerful nobles sit in comfortable seats while thousands of ordinary people cheer from the stands. They have come to watch another slave fight for his life. Nobody knows that the man entering the arena was once the greatest warrior in the empire. The gates open, and the warrior steps onto the sand. Across from him stand several experienced gladiators. They are armed and confident, while he has only limited equipment. The crowd laughs when they see him because they expect an easy victory. The warrior looks around the arena and realizes something important. He has survived betrayal, the loss of his family, a fall from a cliff, and slavery. Compared with everything he has already endured, fear is no longer enough to control him. The first attack comes quickly. One gladiator charges toward him, expecting to knock him down immediately. Instead, the warrior moves aside at the last possible moment and uses his opponent's momentum against him. The crowd falls silent for a moment before erupting into cheers. The warrior does not celebrate. He simply prepares for the next attack. Then another fighter comes from behind. Again, his instincts take over. He turns, blocks the strike, and forces his opponent backward. With every movement, more of his old abilities begin returning. He is not simply fighting to survive anymore. Something inside him is waking up. The battle becomes more intense. One enemy after another attacks him, but the warrior continues to stand. His body becomes faster, his movements more precise, and his confidence grows. The spectators who were laughing at him moments earlier begin shouting his name, even though they do not know it. Then something unexpected happens. A terrible roar shakes the entire arena. The gates at the far end begin to open, and everyone in the crowd suddenly becomes frightened. The guards step back as a monstrous hellhound is released into the arena. This is no ordinary animal. The creature is enormous, powerful, and covered in terrifying features that make even experienced gladiators hesitate. The arena master has deliberately saved the creature for the final moment. He believes the new slave has already been pushed to his limit and will have no chance against the beast. To him, this is simply another entertaining death. The warrior stares at the hellhound. For a moment, his memories become unclear. He hears distant sounds that seem to come from another time. He feels a strange pressure inside his chest, as though something buried deep within him is trying to break free. His heartbeat becomes stronger. The hellhound charges. The warrior raises his weapon, but the force of the creature's attack sends him crashing across the arena. The crowd screams with excitement. The beast approaches again, ready to finish him. The warrior slowly rises. His body is wounded, but his eyes are different now. A powerful energy begins moving through him. The same divine force that once made him the Roman god of war is returning. The wizard who believed the warrior was dead could never have imagined this moment. The emperor who thought he had erased his greatest enemy could never have imagined that the man he betrayed was about to awaken again. The hellhound attacks for the final time. But this time, the warrior does not move backward. He steps forward. With a strength that seems impossible for an ordinary man, he grabs the creature and stops its charge. The entire arena falls silent. The spectators cannot understand what they are witnessing. The warrior's muscles tense as the divine power surges through his body. Then, with one overwhelming burst of strength, he tears the hellhound apart and throws its remains aside. For several seconds, nobody speaks. The warrior stands in the middle of the arena, breathing heavily, surrounded by the stunned crowd. The slave who was expected to die has just defeated a creature that many believed could not be defeated. And deep inside him, the god of war has finally awakened. The arena erupts into chaos. The guards are terrified. The slave owner realizes that he has unknowingly placed an extraordinary warrior in front of thousands of witnesses. The nobles begin whispering among themselves, trying to understand where this mysterious fighter came from. But the greatest danger is not the arena. It is the people in power who may soon realize that the legendary god of war is still alive. The warrior looks toward the emperor's distant palace. He does not know exactly how he will reach it yet. But one thing is certain. He has survived death, slavery, and the arena. Now he is coming back for the people who destroyed his life. The arena is still shaking with the noise of the crowd when the fallen warrior stands over the defeated hellhound. Moments earlier, everyone had believed they were watching the death of a slave. Now they are staring at something they cannot explain. The warrior himself is almost as shocked as the spectators. He can feel an unfamiliar strength moving through every part of his body, but at the same time, the sensation feels strangely familiar. It is as if a forgotten part of his soul has finally returned. The guards are afraid to approach him. They had been trained to control slaves, but none of them knows how to control a man who has just defeated a hellhound with his bare strength. Even the arena master, who had been confidently watching the battle from above, has lost his smile. He realizes that the fighter standing in the arena is not an ordinary slave. The warrior looks around at the crowd and notices something important. Many people are no longer cheering because they want entertainment. They are cheering because they have witnessed something extraordinary. The mysterious gladiator has become a symbol of strength, even though nobody knows his true identity. But among the spectators, there are also men who are not celebrating. Some of the emperor's officials have seen the battle, and they immediately understand that this could become a serious problem. The emperor has spent years convincing the people that the former god of war was a traitor who deserved to disappear. If the legendary warrior is still alive, then the entire story created by the emperor and wizard could collapse. The news spreads quickly through the capital. A slave has defeated the hellhound. A mysterious gladiator possesses unbelievable strength. Some people begin whispering that perhaps the old god of war has returned. The emperor hears the rumors before the day is over. At first, he refuses to believe them. He remembers seeing the warrior fall from the cliff, and he was convinced that nobody could have survived. But when his officials describe the gladiator's appearance and fighting style, doubt begins to appear in his mind. The emperor immediately summons the wizard. When the wizard enters the palace, the emperor demands an explanation. The wizard listens carefully to the reports and remains calm, but inside he understands the seriousness of the situation. If the warrior truly survived, then the greatest secret of their conspiracy is in danger of being exposed. The wizard insists that the gladiator cannot possibly be the same man. But the emperor is not convinced. He orders his men to investigate the gladiator's identity without alerting the public. If there is even a small chance that the legendary warrior is alive, the emperor wants him eliminated before the truth spreads. Meanwhile, the warrior is taken back to the slave quarters. For the first time since waking from his fall, he is alone with his thoughts. He looks at his hands and remembers the battle. He remembers the feeling of the divine energy flowing through his body. He realizes that his power has returned, but his memories are still incomplete. There are pieces of his past that remain hidden behind the trauma of his fall. Then he begins remembering his family. Their faces. Their voices. The life he once had. The betrayal. The emperor. The wizard. The cliff. Each memory brings pain, but it also strengthens his determination. He no longer wants simply to survive. He wants answers. He begins quietly observing the world around him. He learns how the slave system operates, which guards can be trusted, which officials are corrupt, and how the gladiator arena is connected to the empire's powerful families. He understands that escaping immediately would not be enough. If he runs without learning the truth, the emperor will continue ruling and the people responsible for his downfall will remain protected. So he makes a decision. He will stay hidden for now. He will allow everyone to believe that he is simply a powerful gladiator. And while they underestimate him, he will rebuild himself. Over the following days, his strength continues increasing. The divine power inside him becomes easier to control. He begins training whenever he gets the opportunity. He does not need a teacher because his body remembers the techniques of his former life. Every movement becomes sharper. Every strike carries greater force. The other gladiators begin respecting him. Some are frightened of him, while others admire him. One of the older fighters tells him that nobody has ever survived the arena the way he did. The warrior says little about himself. He knows that revealing his identity could put everyone around him in danger. But one person begins to notice something different about him. A noblewoman who occasionally visits the arena has been watching his fights. Unlike the other nobles, she does not look at the gladiators as simple entertainment. She notices the way he carries himself and recognizes that there is something unusual about him. She remembers seeing the legendary god of war years earlier. Although his appearance has changed after his injuries and slavery, there is something about his eyes that feels familiar. She does not know the truth yet, but she becomes curious. One day, she secretly approaches the area where the slaves are kept. Her presence surprises everyone. She does not come to insult the gladiators or demand a performance. Instead, she asks about the mysterious warrior who defeated the hellhound. The guards tell her that he is just another slave. She does not believe them. When she finally sees him, Their eyes meet. For a brief moment, the warrior feels something unexpected. He does not recognize her immediately, but there is a strange sense that their paths have crossed before. The noblewoman speaks to him with respect, something he has not experienced since losing his former position. She asks where he came from. The warrior gives no answer. He knows that trusting anyone could be dangerous. Still, the noblewoman notices his injuries and secretly arranges for him to receive proper treatment. She does not yet understand the full story, but she senses that the man standing before her is not what the empire claims he is. Her actions become important because she is one of the few people willing to look beyond his status as a slave. Meanwhile, the emperor's investigation reaches a dangerous stage. His soldiers secretly compare the gladiator's fighting abilities with records of the former god of war. The similarities are impossible to ignore. The emperor becomes furious. He orders the arena officials to arrange another deadly battle, hoping that even if the gladiator survived the hellhound, he will eventually be killed by overwhelming numbers. But the emperor makes a terrible mistake. Every battle gives the warrior more strength. Every fight helps him recover his memories. Every enemy gives him another reason to remember who he truly is. And the more the emperor tries to destroy him, the closer the warrior comes to discovering the full truth about the conspiracy. Then one night, while examining an old weapon taken from the arena storage, the warrior suddenly experiences a powerful memory. He remembers standing before an army. He remembers people calling him by a title that once belonged only to him. He remembers the emperor standing nearby. And he remembers the wizard. The memory ends with the image of the cliff. The warrior drops the weapon. Now he understands something. His fall was not an accident. Someone wanted him dead. Someone had betrayed him. And the two figures appearing most clearly in his memories are the emperor and the wizard. The warrior slowly looks toward the palace in the distance. His expression becomes calm. He is no longer trying to remember who he was. He knows. He was the Roman god of war. And the empire that believed it had buried his name is about to learn that legends do not disappear so easily. But before he can confront the emperor, he must uncover the full conspiracy, understand what happened to his family, and discover why the emperor created another figure to take his place. Because somewhere inside the empire, someone is already being presented to the people as the true god of war. And when the warrior finally meets that false hero, the entire empire will be forced to choose between the lie it has believed and the truth that has returned from the dead. The warrior now knows the truth about his fall, but knowing the enemy is only the beginning. He still does not know exactly what happened to his family, why the emperor wanted him removed so desperately, or how the wizard managed to convince an entire empire that the greatest warrior of their age had become a traitor. Most importantly, he has discovered that someone else is now carrying the title that once belonged to him. The thought burns inside him. His name, his reputation, and everything he sacrificed to protect have been stolen. But instead of rushing toward the palace, he chooses patience. He has learned that the emperor and the wizard are dangerous because they rarely attack directly. They hide behind other people, manipulate events, and make their enemies destroy themselves. If he wants revenge, he must become just as careful. The noblewoman continues helping him from the shadows. She never asks him to reveal more than he is ready to share. She simply makes sure that he receives food, medicine, and opportunities to recover from his injuries. Her kindness confuses him because kindness has become something unfamiliar in his new life. Everyone else sees him as property, but she sees a human being. Eventually, the warrior tells her a small part of the truth. He explains that before becoming a slave, he was a powerful soldier who was betrayed by people he trusted. He does not reveal his divine identity yet, but she can tell that his story is far more complicated than he admits. The noblewoman tells him that she once admired the legendary god of war. She remembers how he protected ordinary people and how soldiers followed him because they believed he would never abandon them. She also remembers the day the empire suddenly announced that he had betrayed them. The warrior listens silently. Hearing his own story from another person makes him realize how successfully the emperor has rewritten history. The noblewoman then tells him something even more important. The emperor has recently introduced a new champion to the public, someone who has been given the title of God of War. The people are being told that this new warrior is the empire's greatest protector. The fallen warrior immediately understands. This is the fake god of war. The emperor did not simply want him dead. He wanted someone to replace him. A new symbol had been created so that nobody would ever question what happened to the original. The warrior begins investigating the fake hero. He learns that the man is a powerful fighter who has been carefully promoted by the emperor. He wins staged battles, receives enormous praise, and appears beside the emperor during public ceremonies. The people believe he is a divine warrior chosen to protect Rome. But the warrior notices something strange. The fake god of war has skill, but he does not possess the instincts of a true battlefield commander. His victories are carefully arranged. His reputation has been built by the palace rather than earned through sacrifice. The warrior realizes that the emperor needs this man for one reason. As long as the fake god of war remains successful, the people will never search for the truth. Meanwhile, the wizard becomes increasingly worried. He knows that the original warrior's divine power is returning, and he understands something the emperor does not fully appreciate. The god of war is not dangerous simply because he is strong. He is dangerous because the people may believe him when he reveals the truth. The wizard suggests killing the gladiator immediately. The emperor agrees. But they cannot simply execute him without explanation. The mysterious gladiator has become popular after defeating the hellhound, and killing him openly could create questions. So they decide to place him in another impossible battle. This time, he will face several of the empire's most dangerous gladiators at once. The emperor expects the battle to end with the slave's death. Instead, it becomes another step toward his downfall. When the warrior enters the arena, the crowd recognizes him immediately. They remember the hellhound battle, and their excitement is enormous. But this time, the arena officials have prepared heavily armed fighters who have been ordered not to hold back. The warrior studies them carefully. He knows that the emperor is watching. He also knows that if he reveals too much of his divine power, his identity may be exposed before he is ready. So he fights with restraint. The battle begins. The first few attacks come from different directions, forcing him to defend himself continuously. The other fighters are skilled and coordinated. For a moment, it appears that their strategy may work. Then the warrior changes his approach. Instead of fighting all of them at once, he uses the arena itself. He moves toward the walls, forces his enemies into a narrow space, and defeats them one by one. His movements are fast and controlled. The crowd begins cheering again. The arena officials panic. The warriors who were supposed to kill him begin realizing that they are facing someone far more experienced than they were told. The final fighter charges with a heavy weapon. The warrior blocks the strike and sends him crashing to the ground. He stands over the defeated opponent but refuses to deliver a final blow. The crowd falls silent. This is the moment when everyone understands that this man is different. He has the power to destroy his enemies, but he does not fight simply because he enjoys violence. The noblewoman watches from the stands and sees something that confirms her suspicions. This is not an ordinary slave. This is a man who has once carried immense responsibility. After the battle, the emperor becomes furious. The fake god of war is summoned to the palace. The emperor orders him to personally investigate the gladiator. The fake warrior is confident. He has been told that the slave is merely an unusually strong fighter, and he believes his own reputation makes him superior. But when he eventually sees the gladiator from a distance, something unsettles him. There is a presence around the man that he cannot explain. The fake god of war realizes that if the gladiator truly possesses divine power, then his own position is in danger. He returns to the emperor and demands that the slave be killed. The emperor agrees. But the wizard warns them that there may be a better way. Instead of killing the gladiator immediately, they can force him into a public confrontation with the fake god of war. If the gladiator loses, the problem disappears. If he wins, the empire will see the truth with its own eyes. The emperor likes the idea because he is confident that his chosen champion can defeat the mysterious slave. What they do not realize is that the warrior has already begun remembering the techniques and powers of his former life. That night, the noblewoman secretly meets him again. She tells him that the emperor is preparing something dangerous. The warrior thanks her. Then he finally reveals the truth. He tells her that he is the man everyone believes is dead. He is the real god of war. The noblewoman is stunned. At first, she cannot speak. She looks at him, then remembers the stories she heard about the legendary warrior. She remembers the courage, the discipline, and the sense of justice associated with him. Everything suddenly makes sense. The injuries, the instincts, the strange power, and the way he carries himself. She realizes that the empire has been lying to everyone. The warrior tells her that he does not want power for himself. He wants the truth revealed and the people responsible for destroying his family brought to justice. The noblewoman promises to help him. But before they can make a plan, a messenger arrives with terrible news. The emperor has announced a grand public event. The fake god of war will face the mysterious gladiator before the entire empire. The warrior looks toward the palace. For years, his enemies have used his name as a symbol of their lies. Now they have given him an opportunity to take that name back. The noblewoman asks whether he is afraid. The warrior calmly answers that he has already died once. There is nothing left for him to fear. The next morning, the gates of the arena open. The fake god of war enters first, surrounded by soldiers and celebrated by the crowd. Then the mysterious slave walks into the arena. The crowd begins roaring. The two warriors stand across from each other. One has the title. The other has the truth. And as the two men prepare to fight, the emperor watches from his seat, unaware that this battle will not protect his throne. It will begin the destruction of everything he built. The entire arena falls into an uneasy silence as the real god of war and the man pretending to be him stand opposite each other. On one side is the emperor's chosen champion, dressed in impressive armor and surrounded by the symbols of imperial power. The crowd has been taught to believe that this man is the greatest warrior alive. On the other side stands a former slave wearing simple battle gear, carrying none of the glory that once belonged to him. Yet the difference between them is deeper than appearance. One has been given a title by the emperor. The other has earned his name through years of sacrifice. The emperor watches confidently from his elevated seat. Beside him, the wizard remains unusually quiet. He can feel the divine energy surrounding the gladiator, and unlike the emperor, he understands that something extraordinary is about to happen. The wizard knows that if the slave is truly the original god of war, then the empire has been living under a dangerous lie. The fake god of war steps forward and mocks the former slave. He tells him that strength alone does not make someone worthy of the title. He claims that the real god of war is standing in front of him, chosen by the emperor and recognized by the empire. The warrior listens without reacting. He does not argue. He does not need to. The battle begins. The fake champion attacks first, swinging his weapon with enormous force. The strike is powerful enough to knock an ordinary fighter off his feet, but the real god of war moves aside effortlessly. The crowd reacts with surprise. The fake champion attacks again, faster this time, but the warrior continues avoiding every blow. He is not fighting aggressively yet. He is studying his opponent. He notices that the fake champion depends heavily on strength and theatrical movements. His attacks are designed to impress spectators rather than defeat a truly experienced warrior. The real god of war recognizes this immediately because he has spent years fighting men who actually wanted to survive. Finally, he counters. One precise strike knocks the fake champion backward. The crowd gasps. The emperor's confidence begins to disappear. The fake champion becomes furious and attacks with even greater force. But every attack makes the same mistake. He expects the warrior to fight according to the rules he has learned. Instead, the real god of war moves with instinct. He blocks. He turns. He strikes. Within moments, the fake champion realizes that he is completely outmatched. But the emperor refuses to accept what he is seeing. He orders the guards to prepare themselves in case the gladiator attempts to escape. The wizard watches carefully, knowing that the situation is moving beyond their control. The real god of war finally disarms his opponent. The fake champion falls to his knees. The arena becomes completely silent. The warrior stands before him and asks a simple question: "Who gave you his name?" The fake champion hesitates. The warrior understands that the man himself may not have known the full truth. Perhaps he was simply another tool used by the emperor. But the emperor's plan is now exposed. The crowd begins whispering. Why was the mysterious gladiator able to defeat the emperor's champion so easily? Why does he fight exactly like the legendary warrior? Why does the fake god of war look so frightened? The emperor realizes that the audience is beginning to doubt him. He orders the soldiers to attack. Dozens of armed men rush into the arena. The noblewoman immediately stands in the crowd, realizing that the emperor has abandoned the rules of the duel. He is no longer trying to prove his champion is superior. He is trying to silence the truth. The real god of war is surrounded. For a moment, the warrior looks toward the emperor. Their eyes meet. The emperor finally recognizes him. There is no doubt anymore. The man he believed had died years ago is standing alive in the arena. The warrior sees the fear in the emperor's face and understands that his enemy knows the truth. Then the soldiers attack. The warrior's divine power erupts again. The ground seems to tremble beneath his feet as an overwhelming force surges through his body. He moves through the soldiers with incredible speed, disarming one after another. He does not need to kill them all. He simply defeats them and forces them back. The crowd begins cheering for him. Not for the fake champion. Not for the emperor. For the mysterious gladiator. The people start shouting that he is the true god of war. The emperor orders more soldiers into the arena, but the situation is already slipping beyond his control. The noblewoman sees the danger and secretly begins helping people escape from the chaos. She knows that if the emperor loses control, innocent people may be harmed. The real god of war finally reaches the edge of the arena. He looks at the emperor and tells him that his lies have lasted long enough. The emperor responds by accusing him once again of treason. But this time, the crowd does not believe him. The warrior reminds everyone that he once defended the empire while the emperor sat safely behind his walls. He tells them that he was framed because the emperor feared his popularity and strength. He explains that the wizard helped create the deception and that the fake god of war was part of the plan to erase his name. The emperor tries to interrupt him, but the people begin shouting. For the first time, the emperor realizes that fear alone may no longer be enough to control them. The wizard understands the same thing. He decides that the emperor's best chance is to eliminate the warrior before the truth spreads even further. Using his magical power, the wizard attacks. Dark energy moves through the arena, forcing the crowd to retreat. The real god of war raises his arm to defend himself, but the wizard's magic is different from the physical attacks he has faced. It targets his mind and memories. Suddenly, the warrior experiences flashes of his past. His family. The betrayal. The cliff. The pain. For a moment, his strength weakens. The wizard believes he has won. But the warrior remembers something else. He remembers why he fought in the first place. He remembers the people who depended on him. He remembers that his family believed in him. He remembers that the emperor could destroy his life but could never erase the truth. The divine power inside him surges again. The wizard's spell begins breaking apart. The wizard stares in disbelief. He had believed that the warrior's power was something he could suppress. He was wrong. The real god of war rises again. With a powerful movement, he breaks through the magical attack and forces the wizard backward. The emperor immediately orders his guards to protect the wizard. But the crowd has already seen enough. The people are no longer afraid. They begin demanding answers. The fake god of war, who is still recovering from the fight, finally speaks. He admits that he was given the title by the emperor. He admits that he was told the original god of war was a traitor. And he admits that he never knew the full truth. His confession changes everything. The emperor's greatest lie has collapsed in front of the entire arena. The warrior looks at the emperor and tells him that he is not finished. He does not want to kill him in anger. He wants the emperor to answer for everything he has done. The emperor, however, has no intention of surrendering. He retreats into the palace and orders his remaining loyal forces to prepare for war. The empire begins dividing into two sides. Some soldiers remain loyal to the emperor because they fear losing their positions. Others remember the warrior's past and begin questioning their orders. The noblewoman secretly joins the people who want the truth restored. The real god of war knows that the next battle will be much larger than anything he has faced in the arena. His enemies have lost control of the public story, but they still control the palace, the army, and the imperial authority. Before leaving the arena, the warrior looks once more at the place where he fought as a slave. He remembers entering those gates with nothing. Now he walks out carrying the name that was stolen from him. But his victory is not complete. The emperor and wizard are still alive. The traitors who helped destroy his family are still hiding inside the empire. And somewhere beyond the palace walls, the final battle for the throne is beginning. The warrior knows that he cannot simply reclaim his title. He must reclaim the truth. And to do that, He will have to confront every person who betrayed him, uncover the full story of what happened to his family, and bring down the tyrant who believed he could bury a god forever. After the shocking confrontation in the arena, the entire empire begins to change. The emperor's greatest secret has been exposed, and thousands of people have now witnessed the impossible. The slave they thought was nothing more than a brutal gladiator has defeated the emperor's chosen champion and resisted the wizard's magic. More importantly, the people are beginning to realize that the legendary god of war may have truly returned. But while the crowd celebrates, the warrior understands that the danger has become even greater. The emperor is still sitting on the throne, the wizard still possesses dangerous power, and the traitors who helped destroy his life remain protected inside the imperial court. The warrior knows that one public victory will not be enough. If he wants to end the emperor's rule, he must expose the entire conspiracy and make sure the people understand why he was betrayed in the first place. The noblewoman becomes one of his most important allies. She uses her position among the nobility to gather information from people inside the palace. She learns that the emperor has ordered secret arrests and is searching for anyone who witnessed the warrior's return. Several officials who once supported the emperor are now frightened and trying to distance themselves from him. Others remain loyal because they fear what will happen if the tyrant falls. The warrior listens carefully as the noblewoman explains the situation. He realizes that the emperor's power is weaker than it appears, but the wizard is still a serious threat. The wizard has spent years manipulating events from the shadows, and the warrior suspects that the magical attack in the arena was only a fraction of his real ability. Meanwhile, the emperor gathers his remaining loyal soldiers inside the palace. He is furious and humiliated. For years, he had controlled the empire through fear and carefully constructed lies. Now the people are questioning him openly. He blames the wizard for failing to eliminate the warrior. The wizard responds that the emperor should never have underestimated the god of war. He explains that the warrior's divine power is stronger than before because the suffering he endured has awakened something deeper inside him. The emperor refuses to listen. Instead, he orders his soldiers to capture the noblewoman. He knows she has helped the warrior, and he believes that using her as bait will force the god of war to surrender. The plan almost works. The noblewoman is traveling through a guarded part of the city when imperial soldiers surround her. She tries to escape, but there are too many of them. She is taken to the palace and brought before the emperor. The emperor tells her that she has made a terrible mistake by helping a traitor. She refuses to accept his version of the truth. She tells him that the real traitor is the man sitting on the throne. The emperor becomes furious, but he does not immediately punish her. Instead, he sends a message to the warrior. If he wants the noblewoman to live, he must come to the palace alone. When the warrior receives the message, his allies warn him that it is obviously a trap. The warrior knows they are right. But he also knows that he cannot abandon the woman who saved him when he had nothing. He decides to enter the palace. However, he does not go blindly. He studies the palace defenses and works with a small group of people who still believe in him. Their goal is not to start a battle immediately. They want to enter, rescue the noblewoman, and find evidence of the emperor's conspiracy. The warrior secretly reaches the palace at night. Inside, he discovers something unexpected. The walls are filled with records of military victories, but many of them have been rewritten. Battles that the god of war actually won are credited to the fake champion. Decisions made by the warrior are presented as acts of treason. His name has been deliberately removed from important historical documents. The warrior realizes how far the emperor's deception has gone. He also discovers records about his family. For the first time, he finds evidence that his family's fate was connected directly to the conspiracy. The emperor had not simply wanted him removed. He had wanted to destroy every connection the warrior had to his old life. The discovery nearly breaks him. But the noblewoman reminds him that his family would not want him to destroy himself through anger. Her words calm him. Together, they continue searching. Eventually, they find a hidden chamber containing the original documents from the conspiracy. These records reveal payments made to officials, orders signed by the emperor, and messages exchanged between the emperor and the wizard. The proof is overwhelming. The warrior now has what he needs. But before they can escape, the wizard appears. He has been waiting for them. The wizard tells the warrior that the documents will not save him because the empire still belongs to the emperor. Then he attacks. A wave of magical energy fills the chamber. The noblewoman is thrown aside, and the warrior is forced to defend himself. The wizard tries to exploit the warrior's emotional pain. He creates illusions showing the warrior's family and the moment of their loss. The warrior is forced to relive the worst memories of his life. For a moment, he becomes overwhelmed. The wizard tells him that this pain is his weakness. But the warrior realizes something important. His memories are not weaknesses. They are the reason he survived. His family is the reason he refuses to surrender. His suffering has given him a strength that the wizard cannot understand. The divine power rises again. The warrior breaks through the illusion. The wizard is shocked. He tries another spell, but the warrior moves through it and attacks him directly. The two powers collide. The palace shakes. The noblewoman watches as the warrior finally faces the man who helped destroy his life. The wizard tries to escape, but the warrior stops him. He does not kill him immediately. Instead, he demands the truth. The wizard finally admits that the emperor ordered the conspiracy. He reveals that the emperor feared the warrior's influence over the people and believed that the god of war could eventually challenge his authority. The wizard helped create the false accusations and used magic to strengthen the deception. He also admits that the fake god of war was chosen because the emperor needed a replacement symbol. The warrior finally hears the truth directly from the man responsible. The noblewoman helps secure the evidence while the wizard is defeated. But the emperor is already preparing for the final confrontation. He gathers his strongest soldiers and closes the palace gates. The people outside are beginning to rise against him. Soldiers who once followed the emperor now refuse to fight for him. The fake god of war also turns against the emperor. He publicly admits that he was used. This becomes a devastating blow to the tyrant. The warrior walks out of the palace with the evidence in his hands. He presents the documents to the people. One by one, the emperor's lies begin collapsing. The people learn that the god of war was framed. They learn that the wizard helped create the conspiracy. They learn that the emperor deliberately destroyed the warrior's reputation and tried to erase him from history. Anger spreads through the city. The emperor retreats deeper into the palace. But the warrior does not celebrate yet. He knows the final battle is coming. The emperor has lost the people's trust, but he still refuses to surrender the throne. He orders his remaining army to defend the palace until the very end. The warrior looks toward the palace and realizes that this is no longer simply about revenge. It is about freeing the entire empire from a ruler who has used fear and deception to control everyone. The noblewoman stands beside him. She tells him that he has already reclaimed his name. Now he must reclaim the future. The warrior grips his weapon and prepares to lead the people toward the palace. The gates stand between them and the tyrant. Behind those gates, the emperor is waiting for the final battle. And this time, the god of war will not enter the fight as a slave. He will enter as the warrior the empire once believed was dead. The gates of the imperial palace stand closed as the people gather outside, and for the first time in many years, the emperor can feel the throne slipping away from him. The streets that once echoed with praise for his name are now filled with voices demanding justice. Soldiers who once obeyed every command without question are beginning to lower their weapons. The truth has spread too quickly for the emperor to control it. The legendary god of war is alive, the accusations against him were false, and the emperor himself was behind the conspiracy. But even after losing the people's trust, the emperor refuses to surrender. He retreats deeper into the palace with the soldiers who remain loyal to him. He convinces himself that fear can still save him. If he can destroy the warrior and silence the rebellion, he believes the empire will eventually return to obedience. The real god of war stands outside the palace with a noblewoman beside him. Around them are people who have chosen to fight for freedom and soldiers who have abandoned the emperor. The warrior looks toward the massive gates and remembers the last time he stood before the imperial court. Back then, he had been accused of crimes he never committed. He had been surrounded by people who pretended to be his allies while secretly working against him. Now everything is different. He is no longer standing alone. The noblewoman reminds him that many innocent people are depending on him. The warrior understands that this final battle must be fought carefully. He does not want ordinary citizens to become victims of the emperor's desperation. He orders his allies to avoid unnecessary destruction and to give the emperor's soldiers a chance to surrender. Some of the palace guards immediately put down their weapons. Others remain loyal. The battle begins. The palace gates open suddenly, and a wave of soldiers charges toward the crowd. The god of war steps forward and meets them head-on. His divine strength has grown tremendously since the Gladiator arena. He moves through the battlefield like a force of nature, breaking enemy formations and disarming soldiers without wasting movement. The people watch in amazement. The same man who was once treated as a helpless slave is now leading an uprising against the emperor. The noblewoman also proves that she is more than a passive observer. She helps organize the people and guides injured soldiers away from the fighting. Her courage inspires others to stand their ground. The fake god of war joins the battle as well. He no longer fights for the emperor. Instead, he fights beside the man whose identity he once unknowingly stole. The two warriors move together, and their combined strength quickly breaks through the emperor's outer defenses. Inside the palace, the emperor receives reports that his forces are collapsing. He becomes desperate. He turns to the wizard and demands that he use his strongest magic. But the wizard has already been defeated and exposed. He knows that continuing to serve the emperor will only lead to his own destruction. For the first time, the wizard refuses. The emperor is furious. He accuses the wizard of betrayal. The wizard responds that the emperor was the one who created this disaster. He had been warned not to underestimate the god of war, but his arrogance prevented him from listening. The emperor grabs his weapon and orders his guards to remove the wizard. The partnership that once destroyed the warrior is now falling apart. Meanwhile, the god of war reaches the inner palace. He enters a grand hall where the emperor's remaining soldiers form a final defensive line. The warrior looks around and sees statues celebrating the fake god of war. He realizes how much of his history has been replaced. The emperor had not only tried to kill him, he had tried to make the world forget him. The warrior walks forward. The remaining guards attack. The battle is intense, but the warrior refuses to lose control. One by one, the soldiers are defeated. Some surrender when they realize they cannot win. Finally, the hall becomes quiet. Only the emperor remains. The emperor steps forward wearing his ceremonial armor. He is no longer the confident ruler who once sat comfortably on the throne. His face shows fear and anger. He tells the warrior that he should have died on the cliff. The warrior replies that the emperor should never have believed that betrayal could erase destiny. The emperor attacks. Surprisingly, he is a skilled fighter. He has spent years training in secret because he feared that someone might eventually challenge him. He manages to surprise the warrior with several powerful strikes. For a moment, the battle seems evenly matched. But the emperor's strength comes from desperation. The warrior's strength comes from something deeper. He is fighting for the truth. He is fighting for the memory of his family. He is fighting for everyone who suffered under the emperor's rule. And he is fighting to make sure that no one else is destroyed by the same kind of deception. The emperor becomes increasingly frustrated. He accuses the warrior of stealing his throne. The warrior tells him that he never wanted the throne. He wanted justice. That answer angers the emperor even more. He attacks recklessly. The warrior finally counters and knocks the emperor to the ground. The entire palace becomes silent. The tyrant who once controlled an empire is now lying defeated before the man he tried to destroy. But the warrior does not immediately kill him. Instead, he demands that the emperor confess everything publicly. The emperor refuses. He says that even if he loses, the people will eventually forget the warrior again. The warrior tells him that this time the truth will be written by the people themselves. The noblewoman enters the hall carrying the evidence recovered from the hidden chamber. She presents the documents to the assembled officials and soldiers. The proof is undeniable. The emperor's orders are there. The wizard's involvement is recorded. The false accusations against the god of war are exposed. The emperor's betrayal can no longer be hidden. The remaining officials turn against him. The people outside begin celebrating as word spreads that the tyrant has been defeated. But the story is not completely over. The warrior still has one final question. He asks the emperor what happened to his family. The emperor remains silent. The warrior's expression changes. The loss of his family has been the wound that never healed. He needs the truth. The emperor finally admits that the conspiracy was designed to destroy everything connected to the warrior. He reveals that the family was targeted because they were the warrior's greatest source of strength and loyalty. The warrior closes his eyes. For years, he imagined this moment. He imagined revenge would bring peace. But standing before the defeated emperor, he realizes that no victory can bring his family back. The noblewoman stands beside him and reminds him that their memory can still live on. The warrior lowers his weapon. Instead of becoming another tyrant, he chooses justice. The emperor is removed from power and taken into custody to face judgment for his crimes. The people begin tearing down the symbols of his rule. The false statues are removed. The name of the real god of war is restored. For the first time, the warrior walks through the capital without hiding his identity. People recognize him. But he does not demand worship. He simply asks them to remember the truth. The fake god of war also publicly admits his role in the emperor's deception and asks forgiveness from the people. Because he was manipulated rather than being the creator of the conspiracy, the warrior chooses not to treat him as the main enemy. The wizard is also taken away to face judgment for his involvement. The empire begins rebuilding. But the warrior feels strangely empty. He has defeated the emperor. He has exposed the conspiracy. He has reclaimed his name. Yet the pain of losing his family remains. The noblewoman understands what he is feeling. She does not try to erase his sadness. Instead, she stays beside him. She tells him that surviving does not mean forgetting the people he lost. It means carrying their memory forward. Her words touch him deeply. The warrior finally realizes that his journey was never only about revenge. It was about finding himself again. He had fallen from the highest position in the empire to the lowest place as a slave. He had fought monsters, gladiators, soldiers, and a false version of himself. Now he had defeated the tyrant who caused it all. But the greatest battle had been inside his own heart. He had to choose whether suffering would turn him into another cruel ruler or whether he would use his pain to protect others. He chooses the second path. As the sun rises over the capital, the people gather in the streets. The banners of the tyrant are removed. The symbols of the false god of war disappear. And the warrior who was once believed to be dead stands openly among the people. His glory has returned. But his journey is still moving toward one final chapter. The warrior tells him that everyone deserves the chance to become better after discovering the truth. The former fake champion promises to use his strength to protect people rather than seek fame. Their final meeting closes another part of the warrior's journey. The wizard receives judgment for his crimes. His magical knowledge, once used to manipulate and destroy, is placed under strict control so that it cannot again be used to serve a tyrant. The warrior does not personally punish him beyond what the law demands. He has learned that justice must be greater than personal revenge. The emperor faces judgment as well. His reign ends not with a glorious final battle, but with the collapse of the fear he once used to control everyone. The man who believed he could erase the god of war from history is now remembered mainly for the lies he created. Meanwhile, the warrior and the noblewoman prepare for their marriage. Their wedding is not a grand political ceremony designed to impress nobles. It is a celebration of two people who survived an extraordinary journey together. The warrior stands before the people without the heavy armor he once wore into battle. He no longer needs to prove that he is powerful. His story has already proven it. The noblewoman walks toward him, and for a moment, the warrior remembers the first time they met. He had been a broken slave. She had seen something in him that everyone else had ignored. She had helped him when he had no reason to believe his life could improve. Now they stand together as equals. The marriage represents more than romance. It represents the life the emperor could never take away from him. The ceremony is filled with people from every part of the empire. Soldiers, ordinary citizens, former gladiators, and nobles all gather together. They are not there simply to celebrate a powerful warrior. They are celebrating the end of an era built on fear. The warrior looks at the crowd and realizes how different this moment is from the arena. In the arena, people cheered because they wanted to watch him survive. Now they are cheering because he has survived. There is a difference. The battle is no longer the reason for his existence. He has finally reached a place where he can live without constantly looking over his shoulder. After the ceremony, the warrior and his wife leave the palace and return to a quieter life. He still trains occasionally, because his divine power remains part of him, but he no longer trains simply to prepare for the next enemy. He trains so he can remain ready to protect the people he loves. Sometimes, young warriors visit him and ask how he became so powerful. They expect him to teach them a secret technique or explain the source of his divine strength. Instead, he tells them that strength means nothing if it is controlled by arrogance. He teaches them discipline. He teaches them courage. He teaches them that a warrior's greatest responsibility is to protect those who cannot protect themselves. And whenever someone asks him about the title of God of War, he reminds them that a title can be stolen. Honor cannot. Years earlier, the emperor had believed that throwing him from a cliff would end everything. He was wrong. The fall became the beginning of a second life. Slavery taught the warrior humility. The gladiator arena awakened his divine power. The hellhound tested his strength. The fake god of war forced him to reclaim his identity. The traitors gave him a reason to expose the truth. The emperor gave him a reason to fight for justice. And the noblewoman gave him a reason to believe that life could contain something beyond revenge. When the warrior eventually returns to the cliff where his old life ended, he does not stand there with anger anymore. He stands there peacefully. He remembers his family. He remembers the man he used to be. Then he looks toward the horizon and smiles. His family is gone, but their memory lives inside him. His old glory was stolen, but he rebuilt it. His name was erased, but the truth restored it. His freedom was taken, but he reclaimed it. And the man who once fell into darkness now stands in the light, no longer running from his past. The final message of the story is simple but powerful. A person can lose their position, their wealth, their reputation, and even everything they once believed defined them. But as long as they refuse to surrender their courage and their sense of justice, they can rise again. The Roman god of war was not truly defeated when he fell from the cliff. He was not defeated when he became a slave. He was not defeated when he entered the gladiator arena. And he was certainly not defeated when the empire believed another man could replace him. His true victory came when he stood before the people and chose truth over hatred. He reclaimed his glory, defeated the tyrant, exposed the conspiracy, and found peace beside the woman who believed in him when nobody else did. And that brings the story of Gladiator Fire and Blood to its powerful conclusion. What began as a story of betrayal and destruction ultimately becomes a story about survival, courage, justice, and second chances. The legendary warrior loses everything, falls to the lowest point imaginable, awakens his forgotten divine power, and rises again, not simply to become the god of war he once was, but to become a wiser and stronger man. His enemies wanted him forgotten. Instead, they turned him into a legend. His enemies wanted his story to end. Instead, his fall became the beginning of his greatest chapter. And in the end, the real god of war does not reclaim his glory because he defeats everyone who stood against him. He reclaims it because after everything the world did to him, he still chooses to protect, to love, and to live. And that is where this unforgettable journey finally ends. If you enjoyed this full story explanation of Gladiator Fire and Blood, then don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our latest drama story explanations and reviews. If you found this story interesting, share this video with your friends and family who love exciting drama and action stories. Your support really means a lot and helps the channel grow. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next amazing story. Take care and stay tuned.